Welcome to The Potential. My name is Ko, and I have 2 decades of experience being in design as managers and as individual contributors, and we want to share a lot of that experience with you.
Heck yeah. And my name is Sharzad. And yeah, I've switched back and forth between individual contributor IC for those of you who are in the know and people manager over and over again for 2 decades. And I have some thoughts on it. And I want to hear your thoughts. So Ko,
I want to hear your thoughts.
thanks. No, but I want to hear okay, fine. We can share both of our thoughts. What is it that makes you decide to do that switch?
From IC, individual contributor, to manager.
Either way, either direction.
Yeah, so do you know what it was? It was my dad. This is like the truth. He recommended it. I'll share the reason why. He was a VP of some company, but he told me that you're getting older and that you're not going to have the energy to work and stay up all night working on projects like you are doing right now. And so you should look at scaling your capabilities up so that your team can work with you to create that vision, but you don't have to stay up all night because you're just physically going to get older and mentally going to get exhausted, and you're not going to be able to keep doing that. So he said that's just the reality of things. He's like, you may want to look at management. And so that's when I first tried it. But I like you, I hop back and forth though, because I love the making and I love the craft of things. And at the end of the day, knowing both does make you a better design manager though. To manage designers, it's more effective if you were a designer or are a designer yourself, I think. How about you? What got you to switch into design management?
I think for me, it was the fact that the crafts that I am interested in, or I'm interested in that ultimately the craft of impact. Like, how does someone have an impact? That's the overwhelming interest that I have. And I think design is such a powerful tool for that, how you approach design and kind of going through that process of navigating through ambiguity and making artifacts that create clarity. That's what I'm in love with when it comes to design. And so for me, going back and forth between people manager and IC was really natural because I would get kind of bored at a certain place with doing the IC work. I'd be like, yeah, it's the same kinds of projects over and over again. I wonder if there's something else I can do. And then I would move into being a people manager again and go, oh, okay, like new organization, different types of things are going to resonate. I can, operate differently here and learn something. And then get kind of bored with that and then go back to saying, okay, well, the problem space has changed. Maybe I can be an IC again. So for me, it's always been curiosity and getting bored, ultimately.
Getting bored seems like a topic that you've mentioned in the past as well.
Listen, I get bored.
I think being manager, though, I think is the role if you get bored, though, because it is far from boring.
It's a different craft. It really is. It's a totally different skill set.
Yeah. And also, every situation is new because every human being is different. So when people have problems or issues, there's some patterns. There's some things that I've seen before, but there's always, even after, how long of it, maybe like 10, 12 years being manager, there's always new situations that still come up where I'm like, how do I deal with this?
Totally.
Because they're people issues. People management stuff is definitely a skill set and it's quite difficult.
I think that's what surprises people, right? When they do the switch is maybe not knowing, not going in eyes wide open that it's a different skill set. But what's funny is going back from people manager to IC, the thing that really surprised me, and I'm curious if you've had this experience, the thing that surprised me was all of those people skills that I learned from being a manager this last time, I'm bringing to my IC role and it's turning out to be super useful. So okay, well, let me get to know the people who are in this decision-making process. Turns out that, different kinds of artifacts might resonate with them differently. It turns out I might need to have a different conversation to get them to buy into this. And so I actually became more influential as a designer, like within my craft, by learning how to manage those people problems. Does that make sense? Have you had that experience?
I completely agree. Because it's the level of information that a manager needs. So it could be that I need to show them design so they can sell the design to their executives or their leadership. And they don't need to necessarily know the nitty-gritty detail. Sometimes they need to know the nitty-gritty detail. But I know when and when they don't. And I can arm them with the things that they need. because I've been in that space before. And I know that the manager doesn't like to do micromanagement, those type of things. So just getting them out of the way and just telling them that, hey, it's done. Proactive communication of things.
Yeah. Actually, your last point reminded me of one, which was
Yeah.
as a designer, there's this expectation that you're going to be good at all the stuff that you need to do your job. As a people manager, you actually end up outsourcing some of that stuff. So, for example, my last team, such amazing people, like such joyful people who love each other, and they always wanted to connect socially. And I am really bad at planning like fun social things. I'm just bad at it. It kind of stresses me out. I'd rather do something else as a people manager. And so I would just find someone who wanted to do that and just support them and say, great, do this thing that everyone wants that I'm not good at. Awesome. And you don't get to do that as much as an IC. You can't just be like, I'm not a good motion designer, so I just outsourced it. You don't get celebrated for doing that as an IC, but as a manager, that's actually your job, is to say, hey, I'm not good at this, but I'm going to find someone who is and empower them.
And I think that's what makes a good design managers too, is that you're able to coordinate and orchestrate all of that stuff. So you have a broader view, so you can move things around or move people around or put projects with the people that's going to set them up for success. Whereas when you are an IC, like you said, you don't have control over that. You don't have the power to pick and choose the projects that you want necessarily. You can request it, but you don't have the power to take it.
Not that you have power as a people manager. I do feel like there's this perception on the IC side that if you're a design manager, you know everything, you control everything, you make all the decisions. And the reality is that you are just as disempowered in all the same ways as a people leader as you are as an IC. It's just a little bit different. It's not like your manager actually has all the answers or all the power. I just think that's an important thing to remember for people who are thinking about making that switch. You don't suddenly get power. It's really different. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's not I currently have an executive coach, and we are currently talking about power. So I think it's very interesting topic. I don't like authority.
Me neither.
It's like punk rock thing maybe or something, but I just don't like elitism. I don't like any of that stuff. And then so
I don't like people telling me what to do.
Yeah, I hate all that stuff too.
Hate it.
But this is what we've been chatting about, is that I still have to recognize that, and I do, that there is such thing as power, and that me being in a leadership role, that I do have a certain level of power, even if I hate power, and that I have to be careful of that, because if I'm not aware of that power, whether it's coming down from above or me exerting it on somebody else without knowing it, I need to be conscious and aware of what's happening. It's just been an interesting topic for me to talk about.
Have I talked to you about the concept of power hygiene? It's just a term I made up, but I'm obsessed with it. Okay. So if you think about hygiene is recurring and constant. You have to brush your teeth every day. I mean, you really need to brush your teeth every day. You have to floss every day. Like there's these things that you have to do to take care of yourself that are in the category of hygiene. And so I think about power hygiene as there are things you have to do every day to make sure that you are responsibly caring for the power that you have. And so to me, this is stuff like making sure that I'm communicating in respectful ways with everyone, making sure that I'm empowering other people, making sure that I'm not stepping on anyone's toes, making sure that I'm not behaving in a way that is blind to the power that I have that would make someone else uncomfortable. So power hygiene to me is, I had a situation recently where I had requested access to a doc that someone had posted a link to. And I was like, oh, I don't know what this doc is. I guess I might need to see this. And so I requested access. The person granted me access, and it turned out it was their parental leave details. It was just like the sort of dates of when they were planning to go out and, what their coverage plan was. And I was like, I need this person to know that I am not, as an executive, trying to micromanage their parental leave. I am not trying to get into the details with them. That would be so disrespectful. I'm not even this person's manager. I need to send them a note. And so I sent a note that was like, hey, I just want you to know I didn't know what that doc was when I requested access. And I hope it didn't make you uncomfortable that I requested access. It really came from a place of me not knowing what it was. I have no intention to review or get involved with the details of your parental leave. And they were like, oh, don't even worry about it. And it was fine. But for me, that was part of power hygiene. I wanted to make sure I wasn't sending a signal to someone that I was going to be overstepping or using my power in a way that was going to make them uncomfortable. So to me, it's the little things like that of just being really aware that even if power is, a weird social construct that has so many issues, like you have some, everyone has some, and you have to take care of it. So that's my spiel about power hygiene.
I love it. I love it. That's so you think about it on a daily basis.
I do. I really do. And not just as a people manager, also as an IC, the power is just different. As an IC, your power is more around your influence and the work that you're doing and the scope that you cover. But as a people leader, your power is interpersonal. And that, like you said, like it just gets trickier when it's about people.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most stressful part of the job for me, being a design leader, is the responsibility that I have, that I shoulder, that you have these people that are on your team and you're responsible for their careers, their lives, through things like salary decisions, etc., through hiring, the dynamics of the team. All of that, I think, rests on the shoulders of the manager and the people above too, but you significantly affect their lives. Another example, I mentioned hiring really quick. When you're bringing somebody onto a team, you're interviewing, let's say like a bunch of people, like 20, 30 people, but you're looking at hundreds of resumes. Them taking that job on your team significantly changes the course of their life, because they're taking this new one, the experiences that they get, the connections that they make, the opportunities that you're getting them. That's why I take recruiting and hiring extremely seriously, because as a manager and as a design leader, that is a direct power that you have on who joins your team. It affects people's lives. I don't know if it's like negative or positive necessarily, because if you don't get it, it might be a positive, but it is going to change their life.
And then that's so true. That is a lot of power. Okay, so I feel like there's this perception that going into a people leader role is the way that you grow in your career, the way that you get ahead. What are your thoughts on that? Has that been true for you over the course of your career?
I think it used to be, but not anymore. I want to say 7 years, 6, 7 years ago, there was a shift towards having more principal designers. I think you hit a kind of a ceiling with a lead designer back in the day, but now a lot of big companies have principal design roles. And I think they took that from engineering, because that's what was happening with engineers, where they just want to code and make stuff. And this is very similar to designers. And they've implemented like principal roles, architect roles, etc., that people can ascend in their careers without having to go into people management because they didn't want to. I think they replicated that on the design side in the last decade. And I think that's been really, really, it seems very successful in keeping talent.
I think so too. I think it's worth, yeah, totally. I think it's always worth looking around to validate your assumptions with things like that. Is it true that I need to be a people manager to get ahead? And is that what I want? I think that's the mistake that people often make, is they're like, well, I have to do this now. And that's a bad reason to go into a role, is I think I have to. And so, I think both of us, it's always been driven by interest and never by thinking that you might have to, right? I've never done it because I thought I needed to.
What I've noticed too, though, on the people management side, there is this the different skills that you need to keep going up. It's completely different than a principal designer. It keep going up in the IC track, because now it's getting it more to business. Yeah. Wait, what did you say? Works?
It kind of forks. Like maybe they get like a little bit farther away as you go up from each other.
Yeah, and I noticed that as you go higher, it diverges even more. I think that's true. And so that's been kind of difficult for me now, because I want to make things still, but I just can't anymore because of the number of people I have on the team. Whereas when I had 6 or 7 designers at Amazon, and we had too much stuff coming in, I'm like, I was jumping on it. I have 2 hours. I can crank that out. I can design it. And I was really excited to make stuff. But when you have way more than that, I think any more than probably 6 or 7, it's hard to do any kind of design work, I think, because a lot of your time goes to other things.
Totally agree.
With everything that you know now, Shahrazad, what do you wish you had known as an IC, and what do you wish you have known as a design manager?
It's a great question. So I think that as a design manager, as a people leader, I wish that I had known that it was a two-way door. The first time that I did the jump, I thought, okay, well, this is what I'm doing now. This is the rest of my life. And the first time that I tried to make the jump back to IC, I felt like I was doing a demotion. I was like, oh, wow, I've taken a step backward in my career and I'm an IC again. And that was just the wrong mindset. I wish I had known that it's just going to be a two-way door. Careers are long. There's a lot of opportunities that will pop up. And what I wish I had known as an IC is, again, actually, careers are long. And I was really in a hurry to perfect my craft, but I didn't have enough perspective to recognize that the craft is always going to be expanding. It just is. There's always going to be new things coming up, new tools, new methods, new problems that need new solutions. And I was in such a hurry to become an expert that I just had some blinders on about the ways that I could continue to grow over time. How about you? What do you wish you had known as an IC, and what do you wish you had known as a manager?
I think that the rewards are different. So what's rewarding for me now as a design leader and a manager is the success of the people on my team. So having a junior designer get promoted because they did such great work, because you gave some creative direction or helped them get the projects that they need, etc. So it's the success of the team, or doing things as a team, or like the people problem stuff that you were able to solve. So we were talking about salaries at one point, and I have the power now to be like, there's a candidate that came in, for example, that had a range that they requested, except the people on my team were getting paid more than that. So to fix some of the sexist gaps in pay, I was like, let's give this person more than what they requested in the range. And I have that power now that I can do that. And I know how to make the business cases too. So if the company pushes back, my response was, look, if we don't pay them a really good salary at the skill and level that they're at, they're just going to get that salary from somewhere else, and they're going to get hired away. So I was able to make a business case and get that person's initial salary higher than what they wanted. So I have that power. So these things like that have nothing to do with design, really, that I have pride over, that I can look at myself in the mirror and be happy with what I did. Whereas on the IC and the design side, it's a complete different type of happiness that we've all experienced, where you're just able to create something really, really amazing, beautiful, works well, etc., and hits all the cylinders and meets all of the business objectives, and you launch it, everybody loves it, everybody uses it. That level of gratification and excitement is definitely from the making and the launching side of things. And you get a little bit of that as a manager, but it's never really the same, because you weren't in the weeds working on like the nitty-gritty details trying to figure that out. You can certainly take credit for it because you own that team, kind of like a creative director would, or kind of like you owning that product. But that feeling it's not the same. So those are the differences.
So well said. Totally, totally agree. The rewards are totally different. Well, I hope that this conversation has helped prepare you for your own thoughts around switching back and forth, doing your first switch, doing your eighth switch, all fair game. And thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time.